Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I'm here with Evgeniy Kharam, and he is a cybersecurity consultant and author of Architecting Success and the founder of EK Cyber and Media Consulting. So thank you so much for coming to the show, Evgeny.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be here on the show and talk about my experience and many other different things.
I brought you on the show today because as I've done a deep dive into your LinkedIn, I know that you started working in cybersecurity in 1998, correct?
I started in IT in 1998, and then I slowly progressed to security as well. Yeah.
So that's a long time, especially in terms of like technology, cybersecurity, because the internet wasn't even that uh was still in development, I feel. Still coming. It wasn't even Internet 2.0 yet. So I would love to know what it was like back then, maybe in the early 2000s, of what SIEM and SOAR would have been like then.
So completely honest, my first 5, 6 years was in the Israel Navy. And Israel
Mm.
Navy was a very close environment. So there was no SIEM in SOAR, but we still have certain things like Active Directory. There was switches, there was firewalls already, there was antiviruses as well. But because Navy is a relatively closed environment, you didn't have so many tools. Having said this, in about 2002, I was doing a Windows training to become an MCSE, Windows 2001, probably 2000. And I was very intrigued to understand how the admin passwords are working. And I found the password and I was trying to put different, almost like a brute force, but with my hands. And guess what? After about 10 minutes, I got a call. Say, what are you trying to do? We got an alert that you're trying to hack the admin password. So already there was alerting, but the alerting was done relatively simple. There was syslog collectors. There was basically information in Active Directory. We were not very, very sophisticated. When I left the Navy and I joined a company called Checkpoint in Israel, I dived fully into cybersecurity, to protocols, and to understand much more about the ecosystem. And because during this time, and probably still, people blame the firewalls for everything, you very quickly learn how to understand how everything is working. And during this time, talking about 2005, 2006, there was no concept of cloud at all. So there was no even idea that somebody else will manage something for you as well. So there is no cloud and there's no managed services at all.
Mm.
I moved to Canada in 2006, started to work for Horjover Group. And this is where I started to understand more about SIEM as a general log collector. Because during my time in Checkpoint, for example, there was a collector called Event Analyzer from Checkpoint, event logs, where it collected logs from Checkpoint firewalls, but only from Checkpoint firewalls and only using the Checkpoint mechanisms. There were some ideas to expand it to other vendors, but it never happened during this time. When I came to Canada, I started to learn more about other collectors. RSA Envision was there for people that remember. And it basically was a system that will use syslog. This was the main protocol for collecting information during this time. Syslog 514 is not an encrypted protocol, but nobody cared during this time. It was running internally, so it was stay supposed to be secure. We'll collect information. And in the beginning, because this is very interesting, because there was no so much logs, because the internet was quite slow. Like your home connection was like a 1 meg, 10 meg, maybe. Your company connection was 10 meg. You're like, oh my God, I have 10 meg. I have 50 meg. Right now, most of us have a gig at home. So the amount of traffic that went through companies was not as big as it was right now. Therefore, the amount of logs that came out of was not big as we have right now. And going back to amount of different security devices, we still spoke about firewalls, antiviruses, EPP, and we spoke about email security, just the beginning of email security, anti-spam, the same. IDSs was there as well. Later on, we had a bit of a database security company like Impero in the beginning, and IBM was there as well. So it was really, really maybe below 10 different type of products in majority of the cases. Right now, I have an Excel that has 150 different type of products. And majority of the enterprises may have easily 100 different products in the environment doing variety of stuff.
Yeah, okay. So can you say more about what your visibility was like at that time? Could you still see all your devices and remote into them or
So this is an interesting question because there's two parts. One, visibility is, if you take a manufacturer of sausage in, sausage out, if I don't get the logs from the devices, and it's still applicable right now, I'm not able to see what's happening. So the first work with the good companies was, what's my asset management? Can I see all the devices? Can I see all the firewalls? Can I have a good connection to all the active directories, not a domain controllers more correctly, if it's one active directory, to get all the information? Can I get connection and understand that the EDR actually installed on all the devices as well? So this is a separate problem. And we still have issues with asset management, especially right now with BYOD, because a lot of unknown. This is one part. Second part, you ask about remote connection. And this is going to be depend if I'm a part of the SOC, do I need to remote access to a firewall or do I need to remote access to IPS, URL filtering, proxy, whatever it is? It depends on my functionality and how the SOC is built. In many, many cases, we had tier one, tier two, tier three, where tier three will be very, very dynamic because there can be the escalation or there can be something we call device management. When people are actually going and making changes on the devices, if we see a problem, we need to go and make a change on the firewall, URL filtering, antivirus, and you name it. Or in many cases, there are people that are doing hunting, we can talk about this a bit later, to do understand more work. The interesting part that, again, no cloud yet, that everything is on-prem. So when we install the SIEM and we install some of the work, we need machines, SQL servers, other databases, whatever it is, to be able to install the information. And in the majority of the cases, the logs will stay with the customer side. When the managed services companies came in, 2010 probably, now there was, okay, I can do SIEM as a service. So what is the same? Is the SIEM located in the company premises or the managed service provider? If it's a managed service provider, then we need to create connectivity like VPN tunnels. We're going to ship the logs across the environment. Now we start talking about, would I get all the logs? If it's a coming back to syslog 514, by the way, it's UDP, would I actually get all the logs or are they going to be lost somewhere from a variety of reasons? And we didn't even talking about the enrichment of the data. Because if
yeah.
I see IPs, if I see correlation, we're not fully there, but we're slowly creeping on this part, the variety of architecture. Because now, as a tier one or tier two analyst, I have a lot of data. Depend how smart is my SIEM, it may be able to stitch some information,
Right.
but I still don't know what is this IP. Or maybe
Okay.
the IP is not associated to Evgeniy.
So my question on that, I guess, is in the SIM early days, or when you were first starting to use SIM, and something that you mentioned kind of struck this in my mind is that you said that there used to be a lot less events than there are now. Why is that?
There was not so much traffic. There was not so much users.
Okay, so
Just
it's not like the system was able to collect less. It's that there simply was less traffic.
less traffic, less devices. We had less security devices that created events. If we just take firewall, one of the noisiest devices for SIEM in my mind, depend what I collect. And later on, definitely many people figure out that I don't need all the information from the firewall. But if my firewall was able to run 100 megabytes of throughput, and right now it can do 10 gig, there's a difference. There's going to be just more traffic happening.
Right.
So a
So
lot of tuning involved as well to make sure we collect the information we need.
exactly, yeah, exactly. I was gonna say when you're collecting that information in the before time, um, were you missing a lot? Like, were there a lot of false positives or missed alerts or those kinds of things? Just still.
Yes. Definitely a lot of false positive, a lot of alerts, depend on the tuning, depend on the environment, depend to understand if somebody's trying to change the password several times. Is this an attack or somebody just forgot the password after a good vacation? So there's a lot of things that you're trying to involve, understand how fast this is happening,
Yeah.
how often it's happening. So you start to create your own logic to do that. And we'll talk later on, we'll get to talk about AI, how AI can help with this logic to do it faster.
So when you're talking about everything that you're just talking about describing the situation and what it was like at that time, what what's the year timeline that we're talking about there? Is that like 2006 to 2015?
No, no, no. We're talking about already 2010, 2015, 14. So this is still 2006 was very beginning.
Yeah.
When I started to do managed services, like with the company where I was, Horjury Group, it was 2008, 9. And then it became massive 2010, 11, 12, 14. This became bigger, bigger, and bigger.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I think in like maybe around 2015 was when a lot of the big innovations for both SIEM and SOAR started, especially
Yes.
so SIEM in terms of user behavior analytics and these kinds of things. So what was it like, I guess, from 2015 to now?
Mess. It's a one big mess for everyone. Because as an end user, you're like, what do you mean? What is the difference between SIEM and SOAR? What's the difference between SIEM and UBA? What's XDR? What's an open XDR? What is UBA? There's so many different acronyms that like, oh, what's MDR mean? Because you can ask 10 people and everybody will say MDR is something else, for example. So if we take the acronyms aside, we came with a new category called UBA during this time. And UBA was like, I'm not just going to look on alerts. I'm going to create a lot of logic behind it using AI. They're going to do user behavior. I'm going to be focusing on the user. And this is an important part because SIEM doesn't say I'm focusing on the user. I'm focusing on a general different things. This could be including IPS, WAF, databases, and many other different things. With UBA, we are now focusing on a user. So if you separate the two, let's say you're a hotel chain, okay, or insurance company. You have a corporate environment for people working in this hotel. And then you have a different environment that basically is user and user access. The people that are using the hotel that are not working in the company. Same with the insurance, you have an app that people are using for the app and people internal. So with the UBA, majority of the use cases was that are corporate users, not the other one. It created a lot of kind of not just headache, confusion. And later on, probably for the last 5, 6 years, all the UBA companies pretty much told we are the same right now. We're not just UBA. We can do UBA and SIEM as well. But this was the beginning of understanding what can user can do. And this was the beginning when the first source came as well and created more use cases. Like, what do you mean use cases? What do you do with this? Oh, we save time. How do you save time? And there was in my mind a couple of different levels that right now it's all the same and also almost automagical. Because when I got an alert about an IP, I may need some time to understand what is this IP or maybe this user. With the beginning of SOAR, my SOAR will do an enrichment of the data. It will go to different things. I'll create a playbook. It will go to Active Directory, to my switching environment, to my antivirus environment, my firewall environment, and basically collect information about this IP. In the same time, I can maybe go to my threat intelligence and also understand that this is an external IP. What is this IP as well? It's a combination of this. So the tier one analyst, instead of doing playbook manually, and this is also very important, the SOAR will not automatically create stuff. You need a playbook to tell it what to do. Instead of spending half an hour to do that, I'll get it right away. Or I will have a certain playbooks to generate and find the data, and the analyst will get the data, click on the button, and it will go and have all this information. Depend on the scenario. And the very, very important part, now I need to actually execute or do something with this. So MDR, the response part in the end, the R1, I can use SOAR in a very creative ways to go and reset Evgeniy password. Maybe change a firewall rule, even so people still afraid to do it, and I agree with them. But there are certain things that we can do. I can go and disconnect Evgeniy from the network device. And SOAR is doing this really, very well. And if you think about that, this part wasn't even capable to be done 15 years ago. Why? Because we almost didn't use APIs. There was no such almost a word API. Almost. Why? Because everything was on-prem. The moment we moved to a cloud, we needed to wait to collaborate and connect. I'm not saying devices didn't talk before, but every vendor created its own connection, its own protocol. Now we standardize, we can have an APIs that use a different mechanism to connect. With the SOAR tool, because API is known or given by the vendor, now I have the ability to go and connect. And again, I'm coming back from a firewall. I'm a firewall engineer. And if you locate it in a cloud as a SOAR or as a SIEM, and by this time many SIEMs move to a cloud, guess what? There is no magical panel how a SOAR can connect to a device on-prem. Doesn't exist. And if it exists, there's a big problem with the company. So as a SOAR company, now you need to figure out what do I deploy inside the company that will create a reverse tunnel, let's call it, from inside the company outside, because we don't want to open connections from outside. It's a bad idea from a security perspective, a network security perspective. To be able to let the SOAR connect and do certain manipulations. And if you're a SOC or managed service provider, you probably already moved away from VPN and tunnels creations, because we all learn it's not a very good idea for a variety of reasons, especially if we don't want to infect our customers or vice versa, in case this happen. Then we need to find the creative ways. How do I have this proxy or reverse proxy clients on my customer environment to execute password reset, to execute connection information? So from architectural perspective, there's a lot of stuff that need to be happened that this need to be done. Right now, when even more tools are in the cloud, it's become easier for the SOAR tools to connect and do stuff, because pretty much every vendor has some kind of an API connection to do all this magic.
Yes, the API point is really good. I completely forgot about that, and that's how it used to be.
Now, let's add the problems to this in the beginning,
Yeah.
because people didn't think about this. Like, oh, you need an API to my device. Oh, here's an API key. It's like, oh, but wait a second. Where are you going to save all this information? So many companies walk out like, oh, can you SOAR actually work with my vault? Can we know how to rotate the API keys? Can we know what to do with them? So it created a new problem that we didn't know what to do with them. But the moment we have SOAR party management and we're now concerned about what you're going to do with them, it became a real problem. Because if you as a vendor don't really save the API keys well, and I can get those API keys, can I, as a bad guy, now connect to your EDR environment and get all the information about all these things happening, including who is your previous users that have in Active Directory?
Yeah. And then you don't have the keys, so you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, like, the Pandora box and the matrix, whatever you want to call it, can be very, very deep, where we enabling functionality, but we potentially can enable this functionality for the bad guys as well.
So, do you think that SOAR, if we were to take SOAR products and put them into, let's say, 2004, is it necessary, or did SOAR become a product and an industry because of the need to understand everything that's happening in a single pane of glass versus in the previous time period, like 10, 15, 20 years ago, when there was just less events, so it was less overwhelming? Do you know what I mean?
It, it was just less overwhelming. We just didn't had not the visibility, the maturity of how important it is. The maturity overall was still not there. The focus was still not there. SIEM was pretty much a tool that people got because of the compliance or some other things. There
Yeah,
was no understanding how important it is. There was no importance that the company need to really, really depend on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity still, in many cases, was a duct tape approach for many, many companies. If you ask them what will happen, if SOAR was invented in 2004, it will probably be part of the same. So it will be one product
mm,
in my mind, because let's give an example. I have a SOAR, it's automating stuff. What is the ticketing system? In a SOAR, in a SIEM, or somewhere else? Or the ticketing system will become a SOAR.
yeah. I guess I'm just wondering why, in your opinion, SOAR became SOAR when it did. Why did we need it at that time?
One, we now had the technologies that made it enable the APIs. Two, there was much more focus and people realized the human labor and how much time it goes to do this. Three, I like to use a term called time to value, and we have SLAs. So if it takes me 30 minutes to do something and my SLA is 15, but it only takes me 30 minutes to get the information about the IT, then I'm going to breach my SLA. So if I can automate and make it faster, better, not saying cheaper, then why not? So definitely, so faster and better, yes. Cheaper, no. This is so why SOAR invented, and I think it created a very good way for people to, I don't want to say remove tier one. I want to say that tier one become tier 1.5. So they
Yeah,
can do more intelligent work, they can do more interesting work, and they can stay in tier one longer because they're much more engaged right now.
for sure. That makes a lot of sense. And how do you feel that with the introduction of automation, AI, other technologies, is SOAR going to change in the next 5 years?
We have a lot of ways right now to automate further. And we also have a way when people are still human beings, and it's very, very good. I like this idea. Let's remain human beings. And which means we can do mistakes. So with amount of different alerts and amount of different playbooks, the AI can help in few things. One, it can potentially see we made a mistake and correct a mistake. One of the biggest problems with managed services providers, for example, when you send a wrong alert to a wrong customer, or say a correct alert to a wrong customer. And it happened multiple times because we're human beings. So you by mistake send it to customer A, when it's supposed to go to customer B. Very big problem. People don't like it for a variety of reasons. With AI, I have options to potentially stop and say, oh, wait a second, you're not doing this right. With AI, I can analyze Evgeniy work and say, Evgeniy, you wasted time here and here. This is a better way to do it. Or AI can watch what we're doing and say, oh, this person actually much better to use this type of stuff. So it can be combination with SOAR, with automation to see how we can be more efficient in our work. To the point that potentially AI with the SOAR tools will able to automate some of the responses. So it will get this, AI will do all the work, and the person, I still hope it's the person, will say, I agree.
Yes. Yeah, that is an ideal for sure. Okay, great. Well, a smarter podcaster would probably end the podcast now, but I do have another question for you selfishly. And it is related to SIEM and SOAR. So if I were to switch off, decide that I wanted to switch my SIEM from one SIEM to another, right? Um, because SIEM and SOAR are pretty closely related, if I'm switching from one SIEM to another, is that affecting my SOAR and my other platforms and other softwares that I'm using? Will I still have coverage? Will I still have alerting? These kinds of things.
I will answer this as an architect. Before you do that, you're going to use SOAR provider and you ask the SOAR provider, we're switching from SIEM A to SIEM B. Do you have all the correct APIs and all the correct connectivity and the same coverage as you have with SIEM A? And if yes, then there's not a problem to move. If they say, no, we're still building this, or it's new, or we're missing this capability, then you need to have a roadmap to understand when it's going to be done. Second, I will probably hire the professional services company to make sure what the steps I'm missing and what do I need from a SOAR perspective, and make sure I'm aligned the professional service people from the SOAR company with my same companies that are doing the work.
Hmm. But in terms of, I guess it depends on what the products are, but in terms of coverage,
Assuming the
are
coverage
you
is the same, not a problem.
there's no downtime. There's no like window of missed opportunity.
But okay, so this is a different problem because downtime is related to how you move the logs to the SIEM. So how we move the logs. So if we speculate what we can do if there's a logs, I may start duplicating the logs to my new SIEM and
Okay.
not just do that. So I will use a product, we're not going to go to product's name, but I can use a product that will put in front of the SIEM, that will collect the logs, and then this product will start distributing the logs to my old SIEM and to my new SIEM until I build all the logic in my new SIEM. My SOAR will still work with my old SIEM until I know I'm into the point when my new SIEM is up to date, and then I switch the SOAR to the new SIEM and make sure I'm still getting the same and disconnect. Now we're
Okay.
going to professional services part and SOW, you
Yes.
know.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's just been something random that's been on my mind that's like
No, it's fine.
semi-related, but not really related. So
No,
thank you so
you will
much.
be surprised how many times we spoke with people to explain the logic. And in the beginning, it was a surprise from a customer. We'll tell them, by the way, it will take approximately 6 to 9 weeks, or maybe 12 weeks. It's like, why so long? Because if we do it in 2 weeks, you're going to be screaming on us in 4 weeks because we forgot XYZ. There is a process. Understand you have all the assets, understanding we have all the information, we have all the correct logic, we're removing the false positive. It is a process. It's not just flip a switch and you're done.
You can't just switch over. You're done. Okay.
Mm-mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for coming on the podcast. If we want to find you and what you're working on, where can we look?
Very easy. Go on LinkedIn, type my name, Evgeniy Kharam, Evgeniy, last name Kharam. Easily accessible there. You can also find information about the book, softskills.tech, softskills.tech.com and .ca, or you can buy the book on Amazon. It's all about soft skills. I'm a big believer of soft skills. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.